wise between Mason and Smythe Street are being redone. And the flower beds at the finance building next door, utility buildings are being redone. So sometime within the next 2 to 3 weeks, you'll see a completed project. Let's move over to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. As most of you probably already know, we've been approved for a $9,775,000 loan from the Texas Water Development Board. I zoomed in on their meeting last Thursday and watched the vote, which was unanimous. We've already incurred about $150,000 worth of surveying, which is the first thing that we have to do before the engineering starts. The project schedule is at the May 24th council meeting, the council must adopt an ordinance authorizing issuance of certificates, which is the last chance that the council can turn down the loan, if you so choose to. After that, on June the 24th, the loan will close and the engineering will start. On September the 22nd, the planning phase should be completed. On July the 27th of 2022, the design phase should be completed. That's all of the engineering and things. And then construction will start on in January of 2023, and the project completion should occur around December of 2026. Last Friday, I completed the FEMA application for the February freeze event, as FEMA calls it. I have asked for $1,325,125.87, which includes the fuel bill of our BTU fuel bill of $1,277,000. I've already had a call from a gentleman at FEMA, and we've gone over the application with corrections and additions. I've also been called by a gentleman from Texas Department of Emergency Management wanting the same information that I sent to FEMA. I've been asked the same question about every element of the application at least 3 times. It's been a tedious process, to say the least. We should know fairly quick. When I was on the phone with the gentleman from FEMA, he said that nobody was as far along as we were on the application, and so that means we'll probably get our money quicker than everybody else, so, which sounded wonderful to me. We had the second coronavirus shot clinic last Tuesday and Wednesday. The National Guard administered 841 Pfizer vaccine shots in the 2-day event. Montana County should have herd immunity by now, or close to it anyway, as before everything went well without a mishap. Last Thursday, we had a group of FEMA disaster assistance specialists at the community center to help individuals with their FEMA individual application for the freeze damage funding. We had a pretty good crowd, and 15 people were helped by FEMA to apply for the funds. I would guess from my own experience that most people did not want to make application for FEMA because of the process is so tedious and time consuming. Week before last, Guy Green, Lynetta Slayton, and I traveled to Wichita Falls to visit with Dick Bundy of BYSP Architects. I had previously had them do a as-built drawing of the police building. We took those plans and made changes to show the architects what changes we wanted to make with the building to make it more usable. Mr. Bundy showed us how we can make some minor changes to make the building even better. I will be bringing a request at the next council meeting for funding for the plans to be produced along with the bid documents for a budget process. A couple other things that I had scheduled. We're thinking about applying for a tornado shelter grant from the Texas Department of Emergency Management. And I'd need to know what the interest would be in that. Excuse me. I don't necessarily, based on what we know about the grant, it's like a 50-50 grant. In other words, you have to pay half and they pay half, and you have to pay for it. After you get awarded the grant, you pay for the whole thing, and then the Texas Department of Emergency Management gives you your money back. And there's a lot of other stipulations. It's mostly for very small additions to regular homes. Homes that are over 40 years old have a lot more requirements and restrictions. And I just wonder how much interest we'd have to make application for that loan. So, Barbara, if you could put it in the paper that we're thinking about doing that and making it so, from what I understand, there's a local company that has a individual or a couple of people shelter. I think some of the mass merchandising stores have them and stuff, and the Texas Department of Emergency Management, if you get the grant, will pay for half of those. So, anyway, if you're interested. Also, for council members, there, Thursday, May the 6th, Thursday, May the 6th, from 8 to noon, we will be having a G200 educational process for emergency management. It's for elected officials and department heads to kind of educate you about what you need to do in case of an emergency like a tornado or whatever. It lasts 4 hours, and I've sat through it before, and it gives you a lot of good information. So that's going to be available May the 6th, so put that on your calendar if you'd like to attend that. That's all I have. Anybody have any questions?
Barbara, Clark Higgins has detailed information about the storm shelter thing, if you'll talk to him.
Bert, is that meeting going to be on Zoom or that Thursday, May the 6th?
I don't know. You know, I doubt it's going to be here.
Okay, all right.
We probably could Zoom it.
Okay,
so.
good.
Any other questions?
On that tornado shelter, is that going to be just for the city, the county also?
I'm sure for the county, because we can't, when we apply for a grant like that, we can't restrict. So if you live out in the county, it'd probably be used for that, so.
Any other questions? All right, then your next item on the agenda is the consent agenda items. You have the minutes before you. If you've read them and have no questions or changes, I'd entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Mr. Love, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bell? Heffley?
Aye.
Love?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Bell?
Aye.
And Higgins?
Aye.
We may be going a little slow because we're learning how to use these iPads. The next item on the agenda is new business to consider from the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning, and the request from John and Carla Swafford and Jeremy and Nikki Ritchie to replat. And Mr. Calabretta is here to give you more detail and answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Council. I just want to say that the Planning and Zoning Commission met on March 30th. A quorum was met, and we discussed the replatting of the plots, 7R1, Lot 10, and Lot 11, Block 6, the revised North Park subdivision, and creating Lot 7R2 and Lot 11R, Block 6. And our consensus was that it was favorable to do that replatting. Yep.
Do you have any questions for him? I know you have your plat in your packet.
So we're just combining the two lots, is that correct?
What was
We're just combining the two lots, is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, taking the 3 lots, smaller,
Yes, sir.
making 2 bigger lots.
Gotcha. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Love, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Bates? Higgins?
Aye.
Bell? Bates?
Aye.
Love?
Aye.
And Heffley.
Aye.
Next item on your agenda is the consideration for the new employee, not an employee, contractor at Selma Park. And to be just truthful with you, he started April 1st. Yes, I would like for you to address that.
Because this is a contractor, and we have an active contract, we have to vote on it. It's a standard deal every time we get a new, person out at the settlement park, we have to renew the contract. It's exactly the same contract we've had in the past, at the same rate, so pretty much cut and dried. You're just basically saying, yeah, go ahead.
He's not doing any different a job this year than has been done in the past. So do I have a motion to accept the contract?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Bates, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Who said that? Higgins. Love,
Aye.
Heffley,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
Bell, and Higgins.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so the next item we have on the agenda is Resolution 2021-12. A resolution for the City Council of Bowie, Texas, authorizing the submission of a Texas Community Development Block Grant Program application to the Texas Department of Agriculture for the Community Development Fund, and authorizing the city manager to act as the city's executive officer and authorized representative in all matters pertaining to the city's participation in the Texas Community Development Block Grant. You had some information in there. Bert made sure you had plenty. If you have any questions for him, now is the time.
This is basically simply the application, resolution for making application for next year's Community Development Block Grant, which is going to be a water line on Hutchinson and Wichita Streets on the south side.
Any questions for Bart? Then do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Heffley? Higgins?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Bell? Love?
Aye.
And Heffley?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the citywide garage sale. Every year, we allow one citywide garage sale where you don't have to pull a permit, nor do you have to pay a fee. The council has always been responsible for coming to the meeting every year and setting the date. We'd like for you to consider setting a permanent date, so it can be on everybody's calendar, that it always be the fourth full weekend in April. It's usually in April sometimes. We were able to determine that in the past so many years, Easter's never gone that late.
I'll make a motion to make it the fourth full weekend in April.
Great.
Then we never have to
We
address
don't
it
have to come
again.
back to this again on the agenda. Second?
I'll second.
Bates? Heffley?
Aye.
Love?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
Bell? And Higgins?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 2021-13, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bowie, Texas, selecting an engineer for the Texas Community Development Block Grant Downtown Revitalization Program for pedestrian, sidewalk, lighting, and streets improvement within the designated blighted area. You want to give them some follow-up?
This is just hiring the engineer for that in case we get the grant. So we've chosen the engineer. So
You see the engineer is Hayter Engineering.
Hayter engineer, yes, ma'am.
Did any other engineers apply or bid on this? or-
They were
Yeah.
graded.
Yeah, we had 3 or 4.
Okay.
We have extensive experience with Hayter.
Yes, sir.
If you had a couple others, we just chose this one, so.
Okay.
Cindy did.
The committee chose, yes, she's right about that.
And they all base their pricing on a certain percentage of the total
Yes.
project? Okay, all right.
And this is for, well, and we're hoping it'll be sooner than later. Redoing the sidewalks on Smythe Street.
Yes.
You know, we never got to finish those with the last grant that they had. And we talked to them about doing some street repair with the brick work. But they're tossing in a bunch of wants. When they come back with the real price, we'll have to take some things out, I'm sure.
You know, with
But,
the brick up there by Legend, up there on Smythe?
Yeah,
on Smythe and Tarrant, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we covered all of that.
We gave them a whole list of things to price for
And
us
we picked the coldest day in the world
to do it. The windiest day in the world.
I'll
So-
make a motion, we go through Hayter Engineering.
Okay.
We selected Hayter for this.
Mr. Love, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Higgins? Bates?
Aye.
Bell?
Aye.
Heffley?
Aye.
Love?
Aye.
And Higgins?
Aye.
Okay, so our next item on the agenda is Resolution 2021-14, a resolution for the City of Bowie of Montague County, Texas, authorizing the submission of a Texas Community Development Block Grant Program application to the Texas Department of Agriculture for the Downtown Revitalization Program, and authorizing the mayor to act as the city's executive officer and authorized representative in all matters pertaining to the city's participation in the Texas Community Block Development Program, Grant Program.
Basically, it's just y'all telling the mayor that she can sign all contracts.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you. Heffley. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Bates? Love?
Aye.
Bell? Higgins?
Aye.
Bates?
Aye.
And Heffley.
Aye.
All right, so last item on the agenda is the consideration for the fuel bill for February Freeze event. Bert is going to tell you what he's been working on and where we are at this point.
Well, the point we're at right now is, we're gonna need to pay the bill, and we do have the money to pay the bill without any problem. The most likely source of that funding, and I'll need to get your vote to allow me to do it, is to take it out of the infrastructure fund, which has well over $3 million in that, so this will put a dent in it, but, you know, it's certainly not gonna hurt us that bad, but it's not gonna help us either, because I'd like to use that infrastructure money for something else. But, as I said earlier, I have put that $1,277,000 into the grant application to FEMA. And if we're successful there, then there won't be any consideration. The reason you know, we need to go ahead and pay our bill, but the reason that I think we need to is to give us time to figure out exactly what we're going to do. We have already talked to our financial advisors. If we need to borrow the money, we can at a fairly low interest rate. The state legislature is putting together a fund for cities to borrow money from at an extremely low rate to pay this off, you know, because I'm sure there's a lot of cities that are not as fortunate as we are and don't have the revenue to pay their bill. So, you know, that is a couple of things we can do, and as the legislature, you know, takes care of their business down in Austin, you know, they've got a couple of months before the session ends, that they're bound to come up with some ideas of how we can take care of it. And I just don't want to rush out and borrow money or whatever that we might not need to. And if we get the money from FEMA to pay the bill, we'll put it back in the account, and you know, that's going to be part of our reward for going through all the pain of making the application to that. So, that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is, if we have to borrow money on our own. And the only reason that is because the interest rate would probably be higher. It would be, a tax-free bond. The state, would be somewhere in between that where it would be tax-free bonds, and it'll probably be in the vicinity of around 2% interest. So, I would encourage the council to please give me permission to pay the bill out of the infrastructure fund, and let's work through this together and see what we can make the best deal for the city.
Okay, does anybody understand or have questions about? I know you do.
So, I mean, either way, we've got to pay the bill.
Right.
This week, so it's got to come out of the general fund or the infrastructure fund, however you feel it. It's just how are we going to replenish that fund is what we need to figure out, either through a grant or through borrowing the money. So,
From FEMA if they come
right,
through.
so we've got to pay the bill no matter what, so it has to come out of the general fund. So because there's not time to go through all the grant process and the loan process to get that to made. So, I mean, I agree. I mean, I'd like to use if we can borrow the money, or, I mean, grant would be even better, but either way, we're gonna have to pay this out of the fund. So, this is how we replenish it or pay ourselves back, so.
There's a lot of utilities going broke over this deal.
Yes, sir.
As you probably know from watching the media. We could be in the same boat as a lot of these towns that just don't have that kind of revenue, and so it's going to really hurt them. We're really in a pretty good shape, and I'm not extremely worried about it. And if the worst that could happen is in the long term would be for us to just have to eat it, and in the future we'd figure out how to add it to the electric bills that we send out. But that's the worst thing. I don't want to do that, and I'm going to try to keep from doing that. But that's the worst thing. So.
Questions? Questions? Okay, so then what we've got to have is a motion to pay this bill tonight out of general funds.
I'll make the motion that we pay the BTU, the ones at 1.6 out of the general fund, our infrastructure fund. However you want.
Actually, out of the infrastructure fund.
Yes, it's the infrastructure fund.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Bates? Heffley?
Aye.
Higgins?
Aye.
Bell? Bates?
Aye.
And Love?
Aye.
That one's smooth. I moved public comments to the end of the meeting, so if anybody has any public comments, would like to take the podium now, you're welcome to. If not, then we're going to join at 6:27. Thank you. Do what? Adjourn. I'm sorry, adjourn. I had a little twang going, didn't I?
Speedy, I want you to make a speech. Speech, speech.